The first thing Arif noticed wasn't the woman's face, it was her shoes. Torn, dust-covered, and completely out of place in the quiet, sunlit street where even struggle had a routine. She stood trembling under the harsh midday heat, like someone who had fallen out of a completely different world and didn't know how to survive in this one. And somehow, in that single moment, Arif sensed that letting her walk away might change both their lives forever. Before we go any further, if you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can rewrite someone's destiny, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes the Stories. Your support keeps these stories alive and reaching hearts that need them. Arif had never imagined himself as someone who could save anyone. A single father of a 6-year-old boy named Vihan, he was barely holding his own life together. His small rented home stood at the edge of a crowded neighborhood, its paint peeling under the relentless sun. Every morning, he woke before dawn, prepared breakfast, got Vihan ready, and then rushed to his job at a local mechanic shop. His hands were always stained with grease, his back always aching, but his heart carried a quiet determination that refused to break. He had lost his wife 3 years ago, and since then, every breath he took felt like it belonged not to him, but to his son. That afternoon, Arif was returning home early because Vihan had a slight fever. The heat was unforgiving, pressing down like a weight on his shoulders, when he saw her standing there. She looked disoriented, her hair tangled, her expression lost somewhere between fear and exhaustion. People passed by her without stopping, some glancing briefly before moving on, as if she were invisible. But Arif couldn't ignore her. Maybe it was because he knew what it felt like to be alone in a crowd, or maybe it was simply the way she seemed to be silently asking for help without saying a word. He approached cautiously, unsure of what he could offer when he himself had so little. Yet something inside him refused to let him walk away. He gestured toward his modest home, offering shade and water, nothing more. For a moment, she hesitated, as if trusting him required a leap she wasn't sure she could take. But exhaustion won over fear, and she followed him. Inside the small house, Vihan lay on a thin mattress, his cheeks flushed with fever. Arif quickly brought water and a clean cloth for the woman, who sank into a chair as if her strength had finally given out. The room was simple, almost bare, but it was clean and filled with a quiet warmth that came not from wealth, but from care. Arif didn't ask questions. He didn't demand explanations. He simply offered what he could, a meal, a place to rest, and the silent reassurance that she was safe, at least for now. As the afternoon passed, the house seemed to breathe a little differently. The woman, who eventually revealed her name was Syra, spoke very little. Her eyes carried a depth of pain that words couldn't capture, as if she had lost something far greater than anyone could imagine. Arif respected her silence. He had learned long ago that some wounds don't need questions, only time. That evening, as sunlight filtered through the cracked windows, Arif watched Vihan smile faintly at Syra. Children have a way of seeing beyond appearances, and Vihan seemed to sense something gentle within her. For the first time since she had arrived, Syra's expression softened. It was a small moment, almost insignificant, yet it carried a quiet power that filled the room with an unspoken connection. Arif gave her his late wife's shawl to keep warm during the night. It was one of the few things he had held on to, a piece of his past that he wasn't ready to let go of. Yet in that moment, offering it felt right. It wasn't about sacrifice, it was about humanity. The house, though small and worn, became a shelter not just for bodies, but for broken pieces of lives trying to find meaning again. The night passed quietly, with the hum of distant traffic and the occasional cough from Vihan. Arif slept lightly, his instincts always alert, but there was an unusual sense of calm in the air. For the first time in a long while, his worries seemed to fade into the background. But the next morning shattered everything he thought he understood. Arif woke to a sound that didn't belong in his world. The low rumble of engines, steady and overwhelming, filled the air. At first, he thought it was some kind of procession or event passing by. But as he stepped outside, his breath caught in his throat. The narrow street was filled, No, flooded with luxury cars. Sleek, shining vehicles stretched as far as his eyes could see, their polished surfaces reflecting the morning sun like mirrors. Neighbors gathered in shock, whispering and pointing, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. It was a scene that felt unreal, as if someone had placed a piece of another universe right in front of his humble home. Arif stood frozen, his mind racing. He turned back toward the house, where Syra now stood in the doorway, her posture completely transformed. The fragile, lost woman from yesterday was gone. In her place stood someone composed, powerful, and unmistakably important. The air around her seemed to shift, as if revealing a truth that had been hidden all along. What Arif didn't know was that Syra wasn't just anyone. She was the missing heiress to a massive business empire, a billionaire who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances after a betrayal that nearly cost her life. For days, powerful people had been searching for her, fearing the worst. And now, she had been found, not in a mansion or a luxury hotel, but in the home of a man who had nothing, yet gave everything. As men in suits began stepping out of the cars, the reality of the situation started to sink in. They approached with urgency, relief evident on their faces as they confirmed her safety. The neighborhood buzzed with disbelief, eyes wide with curiosity and envy. But Arif didn't feel any of that. All he felt was confusion, and a quiet fear that this moment would somehow take away the fragile peace he had just experienced. Syra turned to him, her gaze filled with something deeper than gratitude. It was respect, the kind that cannot be bought or forced. In a world where she had everything, it was the one thing she had been missing. And somehow, this poor single father had given it to her without even trying. The days that followed would change Arif's life in ways he could never have imagined. But not in the way people might expect. It wasn't just about wealth or opportunity. It was about something far more meaningful, the realization that even in the harshest circumstances, kindness has the power to echo far beyond what we can see. As the crowd slowly dispersed and the cars prepared to leave, Arif stood there, holding Vihan's hand, watching a chapter of his life come to an unexpected close. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a quiet hope rising within him. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still exists in this world. And don't forget to subscribe to Echoes the Stories, to keep these powerful stories alive. And before we end, I have a small request: comment below with one act of kindness you've experienced or given. Your story might inspire someone else today.